Good evening, everyone. This week's Parsha is Parsha Re'eh, Tafshin Pei Gimel. And we're going to start on Perek Tesvav, chapter 15, Pasuk Zayin through Aleph, 7 through 11. And then, depending on how much time we have, we'll go back to a part of the Parsha at an earlier point. But this is Perek Tesvav, Pasuk Zayin, chapter 15, verse 7. Pasuk reads, if there shall be amongst you a poor man from one of your brethren, be'achad sharech in one of your cities, ba'artzecha in your land, asher Hashem Elokecha noisen lach, that Hashem your God is giving to you, lo yisa'ametz es levavcha, you shall not harden your heart, lo yisikbeitz es yadcha me'achicha evyoin, nor shall you close your hand from your needy brother. Rather, you shall surely open your hand to him, and lend him what it is that he needs. Guard yourself, lest there be in your heart a wicked idea, saying, the 7th year of Shemitah is approaching. Now, the Torah says earlier that we know that in the 7th year, the Shemitah year, we don't work the land. But the Torah in this week's Parsha also introduces us to the concept of Shemitah's Ksafim. That if somebody owes you money and Shemitah comes, that Shemitah is going to erase that debt. So the Torah is warning a person that as the Shemitah year is approaching, a person may have a cruel thought in their heart. You'll become stingy to your brother who is needy, and you won't give him because you're afraid if you lend the money, you're going to lose it. And because of that, he will call against you to Hashem, and it shall be a sin, and you'll have a sin. You shall surely give him. And your heart should not feel bad when you give to him. Because on account of this, Hashem shall bless you in all your actions and and wherever you send out your hand in all your endeavors. Because the poor will never cease to be amongst the land. Therefore I command you, saying, you shall surely open your hand to your brother who is needy, and who is destitute in your land. So here we have the Torah exhorting us about tzedakah. Tzedakah means giving a gift. It includes lending money to someone. If he wants to take a loan, that's going to help him. All of that falls under tzedakah. So what I want to start off with is how the Mefarshim speak about in Pasuk Zayin. Pasuk Zayin? Lo yisa'ametz es levavcha. Is that in Pasuk Zayin? From Pasuk Ches. All right. Pasuk says, Loi sa'ametz es levavcha, loi sikbeitz es yadcha. Pasuk Zayin? Okay. It's what? So it's Ches. Do not harden your heart and not close your hand. What are these two things exactly? How do the Mefarshim explain what it means, do not harden your heart and don't close your hand? If the point is that you should make sure to give tzedakah, it would be enough for the Torah to say, don't close your hand. What exactly is the point of saying, and you shall not harden your heart? So Rashi explains like this. Rashi explains that what the Torah is doing here, the Torah is saying, Rashi says, Yesh lecha adam shemitzayer, im yitein lo yitein. There are people who basically agonize, should I give, shouldn't I give? The needy person comes over, and they agonize over it. Maybe, yeah, back and forth in their minds. Lakach nemer lo yisa'ametz. Therefore, Torah says, don't harden your heart. When you're having this back and forth in your mind, don't harden your heart. Don't decide not to give. Decide to give. Then, yesh lecha shepoishen es yadav v'kavtza. Then you have the person who sticks out his hand and then takes it back. It's like he has a really hard time parting with his money. So even when he's about to part, in the last second, he backs out. For that person, the Torah says, "Lo sikbeitz." Don't hold your, don't close your hand. So according to Rashi, the Torah is addressing two people and the things that happen to people who hesitate to give tzedakah. They may agonize over it. The Torah is saying, don't agonize. The Torah is saying, what about the person the last minute is going to pull back? Don't pull back. The Ibn Ezra explains, don't harden your heart, with a very, very important principle that we find in Chazal. Doesn't quote it as Chazal, but he says, don't harden your heart, ledaber alibay dvarim tovim, to speak to his heart good things. That means when the poor person comes over to you, you can just hand them the money and that's it. Or you can, as they say, do pious. You can appease him. You can make him feel good, make him feel comfortable. You can comfort him. You could show that you feel his suffering. You empathize with him. You show that you're happy to see the guy, not like, here's the money, get away from me. So the Torah first says, don't harden your heart, meaning the person approaches you, speak to him kindly, speak to him encouragingly, give him encouragement, give him strength. And the Torah says, and don't hold back your hand. But the point is that the Torah is telling us there's giving tzedakah, and there's also, as we say, being matthias, speaking nicely to him, making him feel comfortable, making him feel cared for. And whenever I mention this, there's two people, they shall remain nameless because I'm not going to say exactly who they are. The two people that I've seen that when they deal with people coming over at tzedakah, it's unbelievable. One of them, it was one time I was in Lakewood. I was speaking to him. He's an old friend of mine from Philadelphia Yeshiva. We're standing there, and all of a sudden, somebody collecting tzedakah comes over to him. As the man approaches my friend gives him this huge hello. Shalom Aleichem. How are you? Welcome. Can I invite you in? It was just amazing. He just so naturally and openly greeted the person, made him feel like a mensch. Then there's somebody else that recently I saw at a chasana. A lot of people like New York chasanas going around asking for tzedakah. And when the person came over, what did this person do? He smiles at him. The whole time he smiles at him. The whole time he treats him with respect. For a lot of us, the guy comes over and you get a little tense, right? And you give, but you're not doing anything to make the person feel better. Watch this person. He does how he gives, and he tells him hatzlacha, and he gives him a bracha and everything like that. That's what the Torah wants, how a person should give tzedakah. That is what the Torah here, that's what, as the Ibn Ezra says, that's what the Torah says by Leisa Ametzes Levavcha, don't harden your heart. It means you may give, but you'll give it with a hardened heart. When you give, make sure you're giving it with a heart that's caring heart. And not only that, the Gemara says that let's say you can't give him, you don't have what to give him. Don't just send him off. Talk to him, encourage him, comfort him. This is an essential part of tzedakah. Rav Shamash Lefol Hirsch on this pasuk, on these words, says something very interesting. And it's brought down here in a sefer called Haggis Parsha Torah. And Rav Hirsch says, okay. Rav Hirsch says like this. This is how the sefer is bringing it down. The soul of a Jew is generous. That is the nature of a Yiddish neshama. The Yiddish neshama, the Jewish soul, is generous. And therefore, every Jewish hand is ready to give. That's really the nature. On its own, the soul of a Jew is full of kindness and mercy. Borrowing a term, the yeast in the dough, the Yetzer Hara within us, is what makes problems. Essentially, we want to give. Essentially, we're giving. The Yetzer Hara comes in and starts confusing us and bringing up ideas and reasons why not to give. The Torah is warning, don't harden the heart against its real will. The natural of the heart is to give. Don't harden the heart. Let the heart kind of just work on its own. And don't close your hand against its natural way of doing things. Allow what the heart wants to allow the leanings of the heart to open up and to develop, without any forcing on your side. And then you'll see how great is the generosity in your heart to do good and to do kindness. So the point of this, the Rav Hirsch is explaining that the point of the pasuk is to say that don't harden your heart. Just let your heart be the way it is. Let your heart do what it wants to do. Let your hand do what it wants to do, because that's essentially what you are. You're not giving and forcing yourself to give. Understand that by nature, a Yid is giving. A Jew is giving by nature. And it's the Yetzer Hara that mixes in to say, don't give. So the Torah is saying, don't harden your heart. Don't close your hand. Allow it just to do its natural thing, do its inherent thing. And when you let it do that thing, when you let it do its thing, as we say, you'll see how generous and how open you really can be. So these are some of the commentaries on this part of the pasuk that says, don't harden your heart and don't harden your heart, don't close your hand. Now, I want to share with you the comment of Rabbeinu Bachya on pasuk Yud. Pasuk Yud read, Nasen titein lai, you shall surely give him, and you shouldn't feel bad when you give him. So the first thing the Rabbeinu Bachya addresses is the double wording, Nasen titein, you shall give, you shall give. The point of this double wording is to say, Im titein, if you'll give, Hashem will give you more, and be able to give more. Nasein titein, give, you'll give. You're going to give once, you'll be able to give again, because HaKadosh Baruch Hu will give you more, the money and opportunities to be able to give more. Now, V'darshu Razal, the Gemara says another explanation. Very often the Gemara's explanation, the Rishonim still say there's other ways to interpret it, to learn from it. Even 100 times. That's the Gemara's wording. And there's a couple of times the Gemara says by double lashon, even 100 times. You shall rebuke, even 100 times. Even 100 times. Means to say, don't say, I gave this guy, you ready? And I'm done. I give him once, my obligation is per person. I gave him once and that's it. If at the end of the day, he really is needy each time he comes over to you, then you're obligated to give him. Okay. And another, again, give, you shall give means like be very giving, which means when you give in a giving manner. Don't be haughty. Don't be arrogant. Don't be mean. And because of that, because in this way, your wealth shall continue to exist. Regarding this, King Solomon said, a man's wealth is the ransom, or the atonement for his soul. When is that? When the poor man never hears any anger. Meaning, when will the wealth of a person be able to continue and last? Via the kaifer of kapara, and it will be able to be for him a ransom, a kapara atonement, meaning the tzedakah that he gives will be an atonement for him. When the poor man never hears anger from the wealthy man giving him the money. But rather, you give it to him with a good heart and with a smile and with a pleasant expression. And this is what Chazal meant when they said, Rabbi Yanai saw a certain person, he was giving it to a poor man publicly. He said to him, better you didn't give than to give and embarrass. In this case, it was embarrassing, in this case, he could have given it privately without embarrassing him. And he tells him, you embarrassed him for giving, better you didn't give him. The point that he's trying to bring here is to say, is that the tzedakah that we give has to be given in a way that the ani feels comfortable, and not embarrassed, and not hurt. So that is what this is how he explains the double wording, nasan titein. Then he says, then you have, the pasuk said, Kibeglala davar hazeh, because of this, Yivrecha Hashem Elokecha b'chol ma'asecha. Hashem will bless you in all your deeds. Says the Bein Abachya, Kava bracha mitzvah tzedakah. The Torah is giving us a special bracha for the mitzvah tzedakah. For this, the pasuk says, Yivarechacha Hashem Elokecha. Hashem will bless you. That means that tzedakah itself gives a person, the Torah reserves a special bracha for the mitzvah tzedakah. And this is what King Solomon said in Mishle Yud Aleph, Proverbs 11. Yesh mafazer, you have a person who spends a lot of money, he spends his money, the nice avoid, and he gains more. Meaning there are people who spend a lot of money and they get more. These are the people giving tzedakah. And that's the bracha. The bracha, the Torah says, you give the tzedakah, Hashem will bless you in everything that you do. Then the Rabbeinu Bachya brings a very interesting medrash, again, all about tzedakah. Re'ei ma'koicha shel tzedakah. See how powerful tzedakah is. Shebepruta sha'adam noisin la'ani, that with the pruta that a person gives to a needy person, pruta is a small coin. But at the end of the day, it's a small coin. This is what you can give, and this is what he gains from. Zoich mekabel pnei shechina. You merit to receive the face of the divine presence. B'noich sheba'olam, when it comes to worldly matters, matronisa mevakeshes lahakbel pnei hamelech. You have a rich woman, and she's hosting the king, right? She's had a special guest. The king is coming to her. Oisa atar lefi chavoida. By the atara shenichneses la'ater es hamelech hirayes pnei hamelech. She makes, the wording is she makes a crown according to her honor. It means she adorns, she decorates. She makes everything like really, really special and nice in honor of the fact that the king is coming. And with that, she's able now to receive the king, right? Meaning she has a lot to invest. There's a lot of money to invest in being able to see the king. But with tzedakah, just with a prut of tzedakah, just with the mitzvah of tzedakah, a person can receive the face of the divine presence. Shenema, as the pasuk says, "Ani b'tzedek echazeh panecha." Literally, it means I in righteousness will see your face. But the medrash means tzedek here means tzedakah. So the point is that you want to be able to receive an important person. You know, if you make a fundraiser for someone, right? You got to pay a lot of money to go, right? You want to be able to see the person, you know, and get a picture. You got to pay $10,000. Here, the Torah says, the pasuk says, you want to be makabel pnei hashchina. You want to have the chance to receive the king, the melech machayim lachem. You give tzedakah. You got and you got your in. Then the Bein Abachya focuses on, and this is the final thing on this part we'll talk about. The Bein Abachya points out the following. In Pasuk Zayin, which is the beginning of where we started from, it says, if there'll be a poor man amongst your brethren in one of your cities, be'artzecha, in your land. Now, why are we talking about in your land? Tzedakah is a mitzvah that's everywhere. It's a chayves haguf. It's a mitzvah on you. It's not mitzvah hatluya bar. It's not a mitzvah that depends on the ground. That therefore, you know, it's only in Eretz Yisrael. It's a chayves haguf. It's a personal obligation. It's an obligation on the person. Tzedakah is an obligation everywhere. Why is it Torah saying ba'artzecha, in your land? What's the point of in your land? Now, the Rashi brings down that your city, your land, your brother is actually giving the order of tzedakah, like who gets priority, right? There's your brother, there's your relative, there's the poor of your city, and there's the poor of Eretz Yisrael. Okay, now, but this is his question, and he also and he points out also that in Pasuk Yud Aleph, it also, the last pasuk says, no, there will never, the poor will never cease from the land. Therefore, I tell you, shall open your hand to your brother, to your needy, to your destitute, in your land. What is this focus about in your land? So the first thing that Rabbeinu Bachya points out is something we mentioned this Shabbos, and that is that the Torah, by saying ba'artzecha, in your land, is bringing out the point that the Ramban is famous for, and the wording and the Bein Abachya follows the same idea, and that is the main place to do any mitzvah is Eretz Yisrael. And the pasuk that they bring, right? The wording is the mitzvahs are all, as the pasuk refers to them, as a judgment of the God of the land. The Ramban says, it doesn't mention the Ramban, but the Ramban says this. We mentioned this past Shabbos. Ramban says mitzvahs are really the main place mitzvahs is Eretz Yisrael. And Rashi in last week's Parsha said the reason we have mitzvahs outside of Eretz Yisrael is so we should remain familiar with them when we get back to Eretz Yisrael. Okay, and we spoke about that too. Now, so therefore, he says, really, by all mitzvahs, we find this idea also. And the Torah here is saying it by tzedakah too. Okay, so the first thing is, why are you mentioning the land? To stress the fact that the main place for tzedakah is Eretz Yisrael. But the question is, if it really applies to all mitzvahs, and he brings a pasuk that it fits into that. Why we have to repeat it again? Why make a special mentioning of it in Eretz Yisrael? So I was thinking that perhaps the answer is that, one might think that the mitzvahs that we say are Eretz Yisrael is the place for them, are the mitzvahs like basically the mitzvahs between Adam Lamokim, the mitzvahs between man and Hashem. Because Eretz Yisrael is the place of closest connection to Hashem. So therefore, the real place for tefillin is Eretz Yisrael. The real place for Shabbos is Eretz Yisrael. But tzedakah, which is where you're helping out somebody else, why would that be connected to Eretz Yisrael in some way more than anywhere else? And therefore, the Torah says, no, even tzedakah, which can include all mitzvahs ben adam l'chaveri, all mitzvahs between man and his fellow Jew. Even those mitzvahs, the main place is Eretz Yisrael. Why? Because when we give tzedakah, we do a chesed, all these mitzvahs ben adam l'chaveri, between man and his friend, what we're doing there is we're emulating Hashem. The halachta b'drachav, you walk in his ways. And the Gemara says, what does walking Hashem's ways mean? Just as he is mercy, you be merciful. He is kind, you be kind. The kindness that we do, we are emulating Hashem. It makes us, as we say, godly. And therefore, since chesed and tzedakah is not just about you, clearly it's about the person needy, but it also, in a bigger picture, is what makes us like Hashem. We're following Hashem. We're emulating Hashem. We're becoming like Hashem, which means we're connecting to Hashem in being like him. Okay, so what's the best place for that? Where does that really take place? Eretz Yisrael. Then the last thing is to explain why the Torah mentions Ba'artzecha in your land, is that you should read the pasuk, Ba'artzecha means even in your land. When the pasuk says, if there be a poor person in your city, in your land, it means even in your land. There's an even in Eretz Yisrael. You might even actually think the opposite, that maybe you don't do tzedakah in Eretz Yisrael. But the Torah says, even in Eretz Yisrael, you do tzedakah, and koshken, all the more so, outside of Eretz Yisrael. Now, why would you think there would be no tzedakah in Eretz Yisrael? Because as the pasuk says, right? The Shnas HaSheva comes, the Shnas HaShmita comes, right? So you're not working your land. Any debt has been taken, any debt has been erased. And now you want me to do tzedakah too? You want me to give it tzedakah also? I mean, it's a bit much. It's a bit much. And that's why the Torah says, and the Torah says straight out, don't think that way, because Hashem will bless you. So the point of saying Ba'artzecha in your land is to stress the idea that even in your land, as the pasuk is going to say later, even in your land where you have to deal with Shemitah, and that would make it much harder to give tzedakah, give the tzedakah, and Hashem will bless you. And if in Eretz Yisrael, Hashem tells you to do that and you'll get the blessings, all the more so in Chutz La'aretz and outside of Eretz Yisrael, where you don't have to contend with Shemitah, that no question then, as a chayvus haguf, as an obligation on the person, that you have to go ahead and give tzedakah.